Welcome to Beyond Broken Hungry. We understand the struggle of juggling your career, relationships, nutrition, fitness, and finances while trying to pursue your dreams. And, stay sane too. We're here to make that both simple and fun for you. In this podcast, we interview a variety of wellness experts to share their expertise with all of us and make this journey we call life just a little bit more balanced. We're stumbling towards wellness right alongside you and are so happy to have you with us on this journey. So, with that in mind, let's jump right in to this week's episode of Beyond Broke and Hungry. Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond Broke and Hungry. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Dara.
And this is episode 8. Dara is going to kind of take the reins on this one and tell us a little bit of her story, especially nutritionally, and just her past and her experience. So, Dara, just tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, goodness, you have all day. Oh, this is like, we try to keep this podcast under an hour, right? Well, okay, so this episode is me kind of sharing my experiences with the various eating disorders that I've kind of gone through, fought, battled, however you want to put it, since I was very young. And just to clarify for, some people, this is the Mayo Clinic definition. Eating disorders are serious conditions related to persistent eating behaviors that negatively impact your health, your emotions, and your ability to function in important areas of life. The most common eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. What's not also listed but is fairly common as well is body dysmorphia. And for those of you who may be unfamiliar with that, it is kind of, it's when you legitimately look into the mirror and see someone bigger or potentially even smaller or just completely opposite or different to what people actually see and what you actually look like. And most eating disorders involve focusing too much on your weight, body shape, and food, leading to dangerous eating behaviors. And these behaviors can significantly impact your body's ability to get appropriate nutrition. They can harm your heart, digestive systems, bones, teeth, mouth, and lead to other diseases. So, growing up, I didn't really ever know that what I was experiencing was a quote-unquote eating disorder. My mom was 19 when she had me. It was early 90s, and there was still this fad of being skinny, everything fat-free, that was kind of the norm. It was almost like you never, ever, ever saw somebody that was quote unquote thick on the cover of a magazine or on TV or really, anywhere. So like girls like me who have always been a little bigger boned, I've always been taller. I've always had like more opportunities in my body for muscle growth. And I wasn't seeing those kinds of girls in TV shows, in movies, in the magazines, really anywhere. So in my mind and in my mother's mind as well, skinny was pretty, and fat was ugly, just straight, like to the point. When I was a kid, I was pretty much placed in pageants before I could even walk. So always at a very young age around that kind of atmosphere of, beauty being on the outside, being the most important thing. You win trophies over how beautiful you were. You got crowns for how beautiful you were. And as you got older in the pageant and modeling industry, it was like the swimsuits and the sports and everything else. As I said, I was a little bit bigger just in general growing up, so playing in preschool and kindergarten on the playground, we would play house. That was a pretty popular game to play when you were young, and the girls would always make me be the dad because I was taller, I was bigger. I kind of had that, I guess, bigger built. So that meant I had to be the man because I wasn't, small like a girl, quote unquote, should be. So, and I remember kind of being upset about that. And my mom just telling me it was because I was so much bigger than the other girls and not really like helping me feel better about it. And I remember being like 8. And my best friend at the time, who was my neighbor across the street, she was very skinny, Samoan, beautiful, just like that natural fit physique. My friend, she got accepted. She had a couple bids. And when I did not get this opportunity, my mom told me it was because my friend was skinny and I wasn't. But it was kind of something that really stuck with me. And when I was 9, I went to a summer camp that was just local. It was like a day summer camp thing. And I had, was getting a little chunky and stuff like that. And my mom had me go on the South Beach diet. So I was 9 years old, eating celery sticks and turkey bacon and tomato juice in the mornings. It was I'm gonna get super emotional a couple times in this episode, just like a heads up. But those of you who are not familiar with the South Beach diet, the first 2 weeks of it, I mean, it's effective and it works if that's your thing. But the first 2 weeks, like, you basically are only allowed to eat like tomato juice, certain vegetables, turkey bacon, like grilled chicken, rice, broccoli, super, super simple. And then you gradually every 2 weeks add new things into the diet. So I remember, like, I think it was the third phase, and I was allowed to eat wheat toast and peanut butter. And that was just like, I literally remember the first day I ate it and I was just like so excited to eat it. And it tasted so good. And I was just so happy to eat celery sticks and peanut butter for lunch instead of just celery sticks. And when you're 9 years old at the lunch table, kids are eating goldfish and brownies and, like regular sandwiches or, whatever. And I had, and I remember some people making fun of me because I was eating the way that I was. And that was kind of annoying. And like, I lost weight. So that was nice. And, got a lot of praise from my mom for it. So, it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, this is what I have to do. And you hear all these different ways in school, on TV, whatever, what health looks like, or what it looks like in that time frame, depending on what time frame you're in. But aside from doing the South Beach diet, that was really the only time that there was like quote unquote healthy food in the house. I get hear from my mom that like I need to eat healthier, I need to do this, I need to lose weight, but then I come home to Easy Mac and hot dogs or like regular fast food dinners, always eating out. My mom wasn't really big on cooking. My dad was a whiz on the grill, but worked a lot, so there wasn't really a lot of like home cooking going on until I was in like late high school, college, and that was because I was cooking it. My grandma did, she cooked a lot. Most of my like home cooked meals I remember eating were like whenever I would go to her house. But even then, when I would talk to my grandma about these things, her mindset was, well, if you want to lose weight, don't put food in your mouth. So that was kind of like my mentality. Like, okay, if I want to lose weight, I have to not eat. Or I have to eat bags of broccoli or celery sticks instead of like food with substance and nutrients in order for me to lose weight. That time frame that I grew up in, like the late 2000s, early 2010s, growing up in that, I was middle school, high school age, and it was super popular to be like really skinny. Like that was like when the scene era came, and wearing skinny jeans and V-necks and like having huge thigh gaps. Like that was really, really popular, and that was everywhere. Kind of that the only way I can really describe it is like cocaine rock star groupie. Like that was kind of like the look that was really popular. And you know, having big butts was not popular. And having bigger builds like was not a thing. Tiny and skinny meant you were pretty. And being a tiny person was like never really sustainable to me. Like I would sometimes lose weight and I would get really quote unquote skinny, but it would just come right back whenever I would start to actually eat normal food again, because you know, when you're not doing well for your body, like that's kind of, it just kind of like stores it and kind of holds on to it because your body needs it. Your body needs food. And when I would go through these phases of like dropping a lot of weight, I would get all of this praise and encouragement, especially from my mom. Like, oh, you look so beautiful. You know, you look so good. You've lost so much weight. You look so beautiful. And so I kind of got that, okay, if I'm skinny, I'm pretty. And if I'm not, I'm ugly. You know, if I have some meat on my bones, if I'm gaining weight, that means I'm not pretty. That means I'm not like good enough. You know, when I was in high school, I tore my ACL, and I had a lot of weight and muscle mass go down because of like being on crutches and, you know, going through physical therapy. And after the surgery, like I just really didn't have an appetite. It was really hard for me to like kind of get back into gear. I blew out my ACL, MCL, LCL, and meniscus. So the recovery process was about 6 or 7 months long. And I was so petrified because I played sports my whole life. So I was so petrified that being off of my leg was going to mean that I was going to gain so much weight. So I was like just eating enough to where I wouldn't get sick from taking my pain medication, and then getting praise from my mom about how pretty I looked because I had gotten so skinny, and like how, you know, it was like, oh, you're so skinny, you look so beautiful. So still having that mindset of like, okay, so skinny means pretty. And then, you know, my sisters are 7 and 9 years younger than me, but were very skinny and have always been and still really are. And I would constantly hear how pretty and skinny they were, and how lucky they were to have our dad's genes, and how unfortunate it was for me to have my birth dad's genes, because we do have 2 different dads. So hearing that, like, okay, so, you know, I'm SOL. It's genetics. Like, you know, I'm never gonna be skinny. I'm never gonna be pretty because I wasn't made with the right mix of genes. So, you know, that made it even harder. Growing up playing tennis, pretty exclusively tennis players. Thank God for Serena Williams. But pretty exclusively men and women that play tennis are pretty tiny. That's just kind of like what I was always seeing on the tennis courts, is just these really skinny, like twiggy girls and guys. And I always felt like I was so much bigger than them. So, you know, always around those kinds of people too just made it really, really hard. And it wasn't until like my junior year, I got really into working out, so much that like my family had a YMCA membership, and I would wake up before school, my junior year of high school. I would wake up at 5 a.m., go work out before school, then go to school, and then come home, go for a run, and then do my homework, and then do sit-ups right before I would go to bed. So I was just doing as much workout as I could. And then I ended up getting a job working, I won't say where, but I got a job working, and they kind of overworked me a little bit for being in high school. And I was working, you know, under 18, you can't work past 11 o'clock, but I was working until 10:59, like 4 times a week during the school week. So it was getting really hard for me to maintain working out, going to school, going to work, doing my homework, and doing all this stuff. So I got myself into a pretty, like, bad mindset of time management and putting work and making money in front of my mental and physical health pretty early on. And, you know, that really put like a strain on me, because like I was getting really fit, I was looking really good, I was feeling really good, and then starting to work that job that like was started to overwork me. I had to like cancel out some priorities, when in hindsight, yes, it's easy to say like, oh, well, I should have just not worked so much. But, you know, when you're 17 and your paychecks are more than $300, like, you know, that's big money, you know, so that becomes your priority. And because I was struggling so much with keeping that lifestyle up, that's kind of when the purging started to begin, because I didn't have time to work out. So the only thing that I could think of was, well, if I get it out of my body, then I won't have to worry about it soaking into my stomach. So, I would try to eat as healthy as I could. But again, I did not grow up in a household with a mother that cooked dinner every night. I've been packing my lunch since I was like 7 years old. It wasn't, and it was like Lunchables and, or Uncrustables with Cheez-Its. I remember as a kid, like, getting so mad at my mom if she wouldn't let me go to the grocery store with her, or if she went when I was at school, because if I didn't go, I didn't get to pick out the healthier snacks. I didn't get to pick out the healthier things because I knew that I wanted to eat better, but I only had what was in front of me. So when I would eat it, it was like, okay, cool, I ate. Now I have to go throw this up, because if my body soaks this up, this is not good food. This is not healthy food. So I have to like get rid of it before my body knows that I ate it. And then, moving on to college, I began to like somewhat pick up healthier lifestyles, thanks to my sorority sisters and like various roommates that I had, showing me quick and healthier meals to make. And then I was introduced to counting my macros. And we've talked about this before, how it didn't really last too long when I was first introduced to it, but obviously now it's very different and I very much enjoy doing it. I had gotten myself on a pretty decent workout regimen, and got in the habit of cooking the majority of my meals I was eating, but still excessively drinking in that college lifestyle. So, although I was eating healthier at this point, I was still drinking a lot. So I would have those moments where I would come home after drinking, and then I would like eat like half a box of Cheez-Its or like way too many cookies. And then I would be like, oh my God, I just ate this bad food after drinking. I have to throw it up. Or, we would go to like McDonald's or Taco Bell, and like, if not that night, if I didn't pass out right after eating, I'd wake up the next morning and make myself throw up, because it was like I just wanted it out of my body. So binging and purging was a huge thing for me, like end of high school, pretty much all throughout college, and up until fairly recently. It's been something that like I really, really struggled with. And, it's not something that I ever really talked about, because I always felt like kind of ashamed over it, because I wanted to love myself, and I wanted to, I'm so sorry. I wanted to be okay, like with eating food. I wanted to be okay with living my life. And I really just never felt like I could. And another thing that I really struggled with was body dysmorphia, as I talked about in the beginning. It really never mattered like how much weight I was losing. I would hear my mom say I looked so skinny, or maybe somebody would say I looked good or I've lost weight, but I would still see in the mirror this person. And I don't really ever think, like, looking back, when you look back at pictures, when I look at some pictures of me, there was some that like I was like, okay, like, I probably was eating a little too much sugar, I looked more bloated than quote unquote fat or chubby. And I do have PCOS, and I've been diagnosed with that since I was 15. So my being like somewhat diabetic, your body kind of holds on to that sugar, and that's what happens to anybody. It doesn't matter if you PCOS or not. If you eat too much sugar, your body holds on to it and you swell. So there was definitely some sometimes when I look back at some pictures, that it wasn't so much that I was fat, but you could just see I was swollen. Like I wasn't healthy. I wasn't, putting good into my body. I wasn't really getting good out of my body. So I would still just see this person. The most unhealthy that I ever was when I was in college was when I was dating a very, very toxic person for about 3.5 years. And like throughout most of those photos, if I look back at them, I can see that. And then it was like right after I officially like walked away and broke up with him was kind of when I started to look healthier in photos, but I was still seeing that person. when I would look in the mirror, no matter how much weight I was losing in college and everything else. But, you know, these are some things that, like, when you're going through it, you don't realize that that's like a problem. You don't realize it's like a disorder or a sickness. You just think like, this is going to help me be this person or have this image that is slapped in front of my face all the time. And people really didn't start to talk about this that I heard of up until like recently, I feel like. You know, I was even, you know, gearing up for this episode, 3 of the podcasts that I listen to regularly happen to have, like, at the same time, episodes on food and healthy relationships with food and eating disorders, and kind of talking about them and having guests talk about their experiences, whether it was, you know, like a boyfriend that made them feel that way, or friends that made them feel that way, or the world, or a family, or whatever. So it, you know, it kind of made me feel a lot better to be like, okay, I'm not alone. And, you know, one of the best things that I have ever done for myself, and I say this, I sound like a broken record, I feel like, because I talk about this so much, but joining Graham Strength and Conditioning was the first step, like just being in a place that wasn't like just a, you know, $10 a month membership. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some people are good with that. I'm not. To actually have like a community and coaches help me has changed and saved my life. But not even a step beyond that, getting a nutrition coach has made a world of a difference. Just having somebody, especially a nutrition coach like mine, is Nikki Graham. We had an interview with her, or an episode with her a few episodes back, but she has been through and felt some of the same things that I've gone through. So she's been able to help me from a more personal experience, to be able to say, like, I've gone through this, I've struggled with this, but look at where I am now, and look at how I can do, and look at how I'm helping you. And having her as my role model has just been like so significant to my life. You know, like I said, up until recently, I've really struggled with a lot of things. You know, I would say, as far as the purging goes, I think the last time I actually did that was probably around like October or November of 2020. So really hitting a milestone here, you know, like 4 or 5 months, a little over that. Definitely had moments where I've emotionally ate. But, you know, I'm a female and I get a period every month. And I, you know, as I'm like meeting with a coach and like journaling and documenting and tracking like what I'm eating, it's always around my period that I'm having these emotional binges, or after like excessively drinking. That's something that I've been just trying to cut back on in general over the last probably 6 months, year. You know, because I know that I do those things, you know, and I will, you know, let myself binge here and there, but it's, you know, as Ellen and I were talking before we recorded this, and it's not so much that I'm really binging, I'm just taking a little bit of a bunch of snacks and putting them in a bowl and like eating them, but it's going over my macros. So in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going over my macros. I'm going like 50 grams over my fats today. Like, that's not good to do that all the time. But, you know, every now and then, whatever, like I, you know, give myself some grace, but I'm not purging. Like, I'm not feeling so guilty and so like, oh my God, this one time that I do this is going to completely wreck my progress. I have to get rid of this before my body realizes that I ate it. And I haven't been doing that.
Which is, you know, huge.
Huge.
Like, good for you. Like, that's a huge deal that you've like been able to kind of move forward and take those steps. Like, I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. And I mean, aside from, you know, nutrition coaches and being at gyms, like therapy, going to see if, you know, at first it started with like I think I went every week, and then I went every other week, and then I went twice a month, and then I went once a month, and then I went every other month, and now I'm like probably every 2 months, I'm like, okay, I could use a tune-up, you know, and go talk to my therapist, you know, and that was one of the first things that I talked to her about, was that, you know, I didn't want to hate myself anymore. Like, I didn't want to feel guilty for living my life, or, you know, whatever. And, you know, the dysmorphia part, I still struggle with a lot, because I work very hard to have a healthy lifestyle. I hold myself a little bit higher on the accountability scale because of our listeners, because of this podcast, because of the platform that we have created to help people, and it's because I want to help people. So I do hold myself to a higher standard, but, you know, I work out 5 times a week. I'm tracking my meals. I'm eating as healthy as I can. I cut back on drinking. You know, like, I'm not the kind of person that's gonna eat, you know, brown rice, broccoli, and chicken 3 times a day, every single day, because I eat egg whites too many days in a row and literally want to gag. So, like, you know, I have to have variety in my food. I have to be able to, like, you know, to eat different things. And I understand that, like, if you're not being 100% strict 100% of the time, like, you're not going to look like the guys and the girls that are doing the physique competitions. But I have to remind myself, I don't want to look like that. You know, I don't care about having a 6-pack. Like, it's okay that I have a little bit of memories, is what I call it, on my on my midriff, you know. But even though, like, I'm losing weight, my clothes get bigger and bigger on me, and I know that there's progress happening. Other people tell me about it. Other people see it. I still look in the mirror a lot of the times and see the person that was in a manipulative relationship, that was really, really struggling with the binging and purging and swollenness, and the, you know, and the big, that big unhealthy body. And that's something that I still struggle with regularly. It's something that I'm still working on, but that's why, like, it's, you know, you don't just get to the end of the destination and that's it. Like, you're constantly having to work for it. You're constantly having to pray about it, go to therapy, see your coach, you know, talk to friends about it. You know, one of the podcasts I was listening to recently was saying how, like, you know, sit with your friends and be open and honest about what you're going through, and 9 times out of 10 there's going to be at least 1 or 2 other people that are like, you know what, I kind of struggle with that too. Thank you for saying that, because now I feel like I can talk about it and we can help each other. You know, and it's not something to be ashamed of. I thought it was for a really long time. It's something that you need help, and you need to figure out how to overcome. But it's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's not something that you should hate yourself for, or punish yourself for. It's just something that you need to grow out of. And I didn't even really notice that I was in it until I did kind of step out and reach out for help with therapy, you know, and kind of being like, so this is what I do, but, like, I don't think I have a problem. And she was like, even if you're doing it once a year, that's a problem. Like, the fact that you are binging and then making yourself throw up, that's a problem. There's never ever an occasion where you should be like, to deliberately bend over a toilet and make yourself throw up. Like, that shouldn't be, you know, that shouldn't be a thing. And getting help, and reaching out, and being honest with your friends. And even if your friends don't have that problem, but they still love you and support you and can help you with that. I never felt like I could talk to my family about it, because I felt like I was going to be judged for it. Their solution was just don't eat. You know, if you don't want to gain weight, don't eat. You know, and when I started to eat healthy and I started to do the CrossFit thing, you know, then it was, why don't you just go walking? Why do you have to do all the heavy lifting and the high intensity workouts? Why don't you just go walk? Well, I don't have a body that can just go walk, and I'm not just going to not eat. Like, that's not healthy. Your body needs a certain amount of macro and micronutrients every single day in order for you to survive. And, you know, like, it was just, I felt trapped, and I felt like I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it. I felt like my friends would, even though my friends love me, I felt like they would judge me a little bit over it. So it's probably been like the last year that I've really been like open about this issue that I have dealt with. And it's really scary to open up and talk about this, especially in such like a public way. It's really, really, really hard. But I have come so far from what I used to feel and how it used to be, that I felt like it was important for me to be open about this and be open about my struggle and to share it, because maybe there's a girl out there that feels exactly the same way as I have, or a guy, you know, and by hearing this, that they can know that there's hope and that you can get over it, and then you don't have to be stuck in this cycle. You know, you just have to take the steps to get through it. And, you know, I've been on a health journey in a positive direction for 6 years, and it wasn't until 6 months ago that I stopped. So 5.5 years of trying really, really hard. And it wasn't something that I was doing like every week or every month. Like I would have months where I wouldn't do it, and then there would be a day that it would come and it was like I was out of my body watching myself do this and not able to control, not able to stop. And I didn't stop until I was literally had nothing left to like purge out. And like, it's a process, and it's hard, especially when you've been doing it for so long. It kind of just becomes like a crutch for you. But you know, you have to, you don't even have to accept it for yourself. I don't think I accepted it for myself until maybe 1.5 years ago. And that's where my real progress started to come in. But, you know, at least acknowledge that, you know, having this healthy lifestyle and mindset, it's not so much your food, it's your mindset too. Like, loving yourself is the first step. And there still might be days where you struggle with that, and that's totally normal, but don't punish yourself. You know, you can have struggles loving yourself. Like, I still have struggles loving myself sometimes, but I pray, I affirm, I practice gratitude. You know, I do all of the things that we always talk about all the time, and it helps. But sometimes you have to go beyond that. Sometimes you have to get a coach. Sometimes you have to go to therapy. Sometimes you have to talk to your friends about it. You know, sometimes you have to have somebody that's going to hold you accountable to be kind to yourself and to not hurt yourself, because you're not only hurting yourself mentally when you're doing these purges or when you're not eating, but you're hurting yourself physically as well. You know, it can affect your digestive system, your throat, your heart. A lot of bad health problems can happen to you if you don't take a stand up against yourself and make a change.
Thank you for sharing all that. I know it's a heavy thing to talk about, and like, that's a really, really strong and big of you for even to take the time to kind of tell this story. And, you know, it's just like, to be fair, like, this is something that I haven't struggled with on the purging or not eating side, but I've definitely throughout my life struggled with binge eating. And so earlier we were talking about like your definition of binge eating. You're like, oh my gosh, I just ate a bunch of tortilla chips with an avocado. And I was like, oh, well, I just ate 2 boxes of Cheez-Its and a pan of brownies. So, you know, if you are having guilt or remorse about what you're eating, there's a problem. It shouldn't be an emotional thing. And so that's why we're always trying to talk about, like, hey, everybody, like, there are no bad foods. There are foods that are better for you than others because they're going to fuel your body. But if you are just eating to look a certain way, or you are even, you know, working out to look a certain way, you'll never feel like you got there, even if you technically do. You may say, I just want to lose 50 pounds, but then you lose 50 pounds and you're like, okay, I still don't feel the way I want to. I still don't look the way I want to. And so it's, a lot of it is the, like, perspective of it, of, okay, why am I doing this? And that's why we talk about your why a lot in this podcast, is because we know how important that is. And like, I really glad that you were able to kind of share your story with everybody. And just so people can understand, first of all, that no matter how good it looks on the outside, everybody's dealing with something. And that, like, you know, exercising instead of eating, or purging everything that you feel like isn't good food, is not like that means that you need help. And that's, you know what, that's okay. Like, you don't have to be ashamed about it. You just need to seek help. And so if that is hitting close to home for any of you guys, we just hope and pray that you will, you know, take the proper steps to kind of move forward. And I am actually like trying to kind of figure out my own emotional eating thing too. So this is actually really good for me to hear. But Dara, what you were saying that like gratitude and affirmations and prayer have really gotten you through it. And can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the whole affirmation thing just like encompasses like everything. I'll just say like what my 4 are. My 4 base ones are always: I am strong, I am loved, I am respected, I am beautiful. And you know, the strong, loved, and beautiful stem really from not feeling beautiful because I wasn't skinny. You know, growing up, skinny meant pretty. So, you know, like it kind of had to tell myself, like, no matter what, I am beautiful and I'm loved. And even if the only person that loves me is me, like, I'm still loved. God loves me. Jesus loves me. You know, like, my mom loves me. You know, she just grew up in a different time where, you know, it was just don't eat and, you know, you'll be skinny. It just helps me to say those things, because if no one is going to remind me, let me remind me, you know, and to say that every single day out loud. And eventually, you know, it started out feeling really weird because I didn't believe those things about myself. You know, I was like, I can't say these things. I don't believe it. But I was just like, I'm just going to say them. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to lead a lifestyle that points in that direction. And eventually, you know, it gets to the point where you really do believe that. And it resonates with you, and it becomes who you are. And you know, with prayer, I mean, I felt like God was a lot of the times the only thing I could lean on, you know, because, you know, I couldn't open up to my mom or my grandma or any of my family members about what I was going through, because, you know, I felt like I was going to get judged. You know, like I keep saying, their solution was, you know, if you want to lose weight, don't eat, you know. So I felt like I couldn't talk to them about it. So just, you know, praying and crying out to God to ask him, you know, to help me love myself, you know, to forgive me for what I was doing to a temple that is his. You know, that you know, one of the podcasts I was just listening to was talking about how your body is a temple for the Holy Spirit to live in. And if you're not doing, you know, things to help it be strong and secure, it's going to crumble. You know, so just kind of talking to him about finding the strength, and finding the opportunity. And a lot of the times, you know, just like if you pray about anything, like, God's not going to just give it to you. He's going to give you the opportunity to do it. And I failed several times. I mean, this journey that I was on was, you know, for putting my foot forward in a health direction was 6 years. And it took me 5.5 years to really make any milestone steps. But for those first 4.5, 5 years, I was doing it by myself. I wasn't reaching out to a therapist and talking about the problems. I wasn't meeting with a nutrition coach. I wasn't going to a gym that had a great community with people who got it, who understood it, who helped me battle it. You know, so kind of like having to step out of my comfort zone and you know, God wants you to lean on him, but he also wants you to lean on his people too, and to have community. I mean, like that's what we're here. That's what we're meant for.
Well, we should probably wrap up around here. But guys, we just want to thank you so much for listening, and just again, if you guys are struggling with any of these things, first of all, we want you to feel seen and hope that you feel that your feelings are validated. But one thing that my pastor says a lot is it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. And so you have to take those steps to move forward, because you need to care for your body. You only get one. And that's something that I have to tell myself as well all the time. And so here is your reminder: care for your body and don't punish yourself for the food that you're putting in your body. If you have too many Oreos one day, you had too many Oreos. It's okay. God still loves you. Yep. And we still love you, and we are here, and don't be afraid to take the steps to move forward.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to add before we close out is be patient. I struggled with my disorders for 15 years, and it took almost 6 years of really fighting for it to be able to get over it. It might take you 5 years, but you cannot give up, and you have to keep trying to move forward and trying to get over it and get help. Talk to a therapist, talk to a nutrition coach, talk to somebody that is going to help you get out of the mindset that you're not good enough to overcome this disease, because you are, and you can.
All right, guys, it was a heavy one. It was kind of a triggering one, but
sorry if I made you cry.
Yeah.
I know I cried.
But yeah, we will see you guys next week for a little bit lighter of an episode. Everyone have a good week.
Bye. Thanks again for tuning into this week's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to Beyond Broken Hungry wherever you get your podcast, so you can be notified every time a new episode drops. It would also mean the world to us if you rate, review, and share the podcast too, so more people can join the tribe. Follow us on social media at Beyond Broke and Hungry to interact with us and see how we're stumbling towards wellness one day at a time.